you don't know me, and this year the function of reviewing and approving school board training moved from the Tennessee School Board Association to the State Board of Education. So we'll be, the state board then will review and approve various applications for school board training. We will operate underneath the Sunshine Law, so this meeting is being televised live, and we appreciate each one of you in attending this. I was selected as the chair by the State Board of Education. I think maybe one reason for that is I spent 16 years on the local Board of Education in Oak Ridge, and as such went through the training every year. Of all the elected positions in the state of Tennessee, whether you're senator, governor, or whatever, the only position that you can be removed from by law because you haven't had a number of hours of training is Board of Education. So this is a very important function. And also it's what I found was very helpful as a new board member going into learning about the functions of local boards of education. With that, I will ask Allie to call the roll.
Lena Bell. Charlie Bufalino. Bob Evie.
Here.
Brett Henley. Sarah Morrison. David Stevens.
Here.
Thank you.
We have 4 of 6 present.
All right, so we do have a quorum. Appreciate that. And what I wanted to do is spend just a couple of minutes and have each one go around and introduce yourself, because I don't think everybody knows everybody. I know I certainly don't. Just say a little bit about your interest in education and school board training. And again, I will say I'm Bob Eby. I'm the vice chair of the state board and also represent the 3rd Congressional District on the State Board of Education, and having served on the local board and the state board, and now I see the value of training. David, do you want to go next?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yeah, David Stevens. I'm superintendent of Bartlett City Schools. This is starting our 8th year, my 33rd year in education. Had the privilege of being with Shelby County Schools and then being part of the merged district for a period of time and working with 23 school board members in that role. And then the thought of starting a brand new school system with brand new school board members that had no idea of what the role of a school board member was kind of gives me a little bit of a unique perspective. So I cherish all of those. At the time, some of the experiences weren't super pleasant, but I cherish all those because they've given me a really, really great perspective. I'm looking forward to working with this committee, though. Thank you.
Thank you. That is a unique perspective. Charlie?
Thanks. Charlie Bufalino. I am the Assistant Commissioner of Policy and Legislative Affairs at the Department of Education. I'm very excited to be a part of this. I think if there's one thing that I've learned over the years working at the state level and working with our legislators, it's that most of the policy actually gets made at the local level. And so making sure that board members have that training to be equipped to make those critical decisions for their students is just crucial to any success that we're going to have as a whole state. So very happy to be a part of this here today.
Thank you, Charlie. Excellent. Dr. Morrison, Sarah?
Yes, good morning. I'm happy to be part of this kind of revised committee. I was part of it in its last iteration. I do think it serves a really important purpose in terms of making sure that the requirements we set for local board members are meaningful, really supporting them and understanding more about their important decisions and how that fits into, the federal, the state, the local sort of pieces of authority that all go into governing K-12 education. Incidentally, my dad was on the school board in Louisville, Kentucky growing up for, like you, Bob, he was like a lifetime member, 12 years. He was on and off, but I remember going to those meetings as a child and watching them on TV and just being fascinated by the process. I think it really is. It can be messy, but it's a really interesting, important process that happens locally in terms of the role that the local school board members play. So excited to work with this group to make sure we've got the right things in place for those trainings.
Right. Thank you. And our facilitators, Allie Gaffey from the State Board. Allie, you can say a little bit about yourself, and also you might want to mention the other 2 individuals who are not on the call.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Allie Gaffey. I am the Director of Engagement and Accountability for the State Board, serving as your liaison. So if you need anything, please let me know. And of course, you'll get lots of emails from me over the course of the year, just scheduling meetings or asking for feedback or thoughts on things. So you'll be hearing from me. And Elizabeth Tula is also on our State Board staff. She's helping out behind the scenes. So if you have any technical issues in any of our WebEx meetings, she's the person to reach out to. Our other two members are Alina Bell, she's from the Franklin Special School District, and Brett Henley of Coffee County.
Thanks, Ellie. Would you please read our statement of necessity of why we're having virtual board meeting and as such?
Yes. Again, Allie Gaffey, Director of Engagement and Accountability for the State Board. The Tennessee School Board Training Advisory Committee submits this determination of necessity for its meeting held via WebEx at 10 a.m. on September 29th, 2021. This meeting was called to complete organizing duties, including the approval of the 21-22 School Board Training application and rubric. Due to the time-sensitive nature of the items on the committee's agenda, and due to the fact that the committee members reside across the state, it was determined that a physical quorum of the members could not be assembled in Nashville for purposes of this meeting, and as such, this meeting should be conducted electronically. The following committee members announced participation in the meeting via teleconference: Alina Bell, Charlie Bufalino, Bob Eby, Brett Henley, Sarah Morrison, and David Stevens. Notice of this meeting was posted on the State Board's website, along with the agenda and instructions for accessing the WebEx.
Thank you, Allie. And so now, let's get into specifically our purpose for the committee. And Allie, can you please provide that? I think you have some slides or something.
Yes, I'm going to display those. Okay. Recent changes in State Board rule, according to TCA 49-202, Section A6, now requires the State Board to establish the minimum training requirements for all school board members. And the update to the State Board rule in response to this, 0520-01-02-11 states that the State Board shall appoint a school board training advisory committee responsible for evaluating and recommending training courses for approval.
And thank you. And again, our role is to review each one of the applications and then to recommend. And then the State Board at its meetings will vote on whether those training courses are approved or not. So you want to talk about the application process?
Yes, absolutely. So the annual application process flows as you can see here. Sorry, I have something else loading over on my screen. There we go. And with that, we have the prospective training course providers will complete and submit an application to the committee by February 15th each year. And so this is what we are approving today, is the actual application and scoring rubric, which they will complete and submit. The application and scoring rubric will be posted on our website and shared with stakeholders, including the TSBA, TOS, TEA, the Charter School Center, and the Tennessee Council of School Attorneys. Anyone interested in providing a training for school board members will complete the application and submit it by February 15th, which is prior to the fiscal year in which the training course will be offered. From there, the committee will schedule a meeting, which will likely occur in March or April, to review all of the applications we've received, to send back any revisions if needed, and to make a recommendation to the State Board by May 1st. From there, then the State Board will review the committee's recommendations and approve training courses at their second quarterly meeting. Any approved training courses shall be available beginning July 1st and be valid for 3 years unless the provider or the State Board indicates approval for a shorter period of time. And any applications that are not recommended for approval can be resubmitted during the next application cycle, as this will itself every year. So with that, turn it back over to you, Bob.
Okay. Any questions for Ally? I do have one question, Ally, in the way the process goes. So if the application is presented by the 15th of February, and then we review and make recommendations by the 1st of May, is the period between the 15th and the 1st of May, those that, if there are questions before we make a recommendation to the state board, and our recommendation will be either to approve or not to approve. But if there's one that we don't approve or something we have questions, is that period between the 15th of February and May 1st for that process? Or if there's something that we see that we don't approve, does it give them a time and opportunity to make a change and get it back to us and we relook at it? Is that what the process is?
Exactly. So we will schedule a meeting in March, likely in March, just to allow more time for any revisions to be made. So this committee does have the ability to review and recommend revisions or ask questions that can be sent back and forth between the prospective provider and this committee. All of that just has to happen by or before May 1st, so we can make the final recommendation to the state board by May 1st.
Okay, so there is an opportunity for the applicant at least to have one iteration before we either recommend for approval or not for approval then.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. Any other questions for Ally about the process?
Yeah, I have one quick question. And so there could be multiple providers that would be approved, correct?
Yes.
Which is a change move. It's historically been all TSBA provided courses, so the law change sort of allows for additional providers. It'll be interesting to see where we get applications, if they do come in from other places.
And Dr. Morrison, would local school boards be able to choose which, if they had a slate of approved providers, then the local school boards could choose? And would it be by a school board, or could each individual board member determine, well, I want to go to TSBA and another want to go to?
Right. Yeah, no, great question. I'll defer to Ally. My understanding is that it really would be sort of a slate of options that individual members, they could certainly move as a block if they want to, sign up and move together, but I think it is up to the individual member. Ally, is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
And we will have a state board policy, which will be created once we approve the first round, which will have then a list of all of those approved, and we'll update that annually as any additional training courses are added or removed.
Also, as I recall from the past, board members got a stipend for when they attended the session at TSBA, for a daily stipend to cover if they lost their day of work or whatever. Is that continued? And if so, how is that funded? I think, I assume that was funded by the state in the past. I don't know. We know the answer to that, or can we look that up?
Charlie may have more information on this, but I know that, or I believe previously that was through a agreement that the Department of Ed held with TSBA. And so that is something that they can still work out, but that is not part of what we are including as part of the training courses here.
So that would be between the department and the various local boards, I guess.
I believe so.
Charlie, are you there?
Yeah, I think that's right. I'd want to sort of look it up to sort of confirm for sure, just to make sure that my recollection is accurate. But that is sort of what I recall being the case in the past.
I just want to be sure that we don't have any confusion as we go down the road,
Yeah. It sounds like something we should figure out ahead of, approving the first slate, because I'm sure that's going to be one of the first questions that individual members want to know is, is there still the stipend for travel and whatnot? So, and it will be a little more complicated if we have more than one, provider. So Charlie, do you feel comfortable finding out a little bit more from your end, and then maybe we can bring that back to the next meeting in terms of
Yeah, I'll definitely look into it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the process as it is? If none, each member of this advisory committee should have received, and I think it did receive, the rubric and the application. Ally, you want to talk a little bit about that and we'll go forward from there.
Sure. So I just resent that this morning, so you should have it top of inbox. You received a copy of a redline version with recent edits based on the feedback that you all provided, as well as a clean version so you can see it in its current form. And the document includes both the application form itself as well as a scoring rubric, which this committee will use to ultimately score and make recommendations or final decisions on each of the applications. So any questions or additional feedback? Oh, I'm sorry, Bob, you probably need to do the motion for that.
No, yeah, I'll ask for that in a minute. Do we have any questions for her with regard to the rubric and the application?
Just a quick process question. I'm wondering, were there any sort of past providers or trainers that we're aware of, or maybe TSBA themselves who were consulted or reached out to sort of in part of this to get some of their feedback on thoughts on the rubric? Just curious.
We have not shared it with anyone outside of this committee.
Is there an opportunity for them to provide input or any, not just TSBA, because I think you got to be careful about conflicts of interest, et cetera, but for all stakeholders, has there been an opportunity for stakeholders to review and approve this, or not approve it, but review it and comment on it?
We have not provided that to anyone beyond just an internal staff and then of course this committee. So, I mean, we certainly can hit pause and do that, but the goal right now is to have this posted by October 15th on our state board website.
Allie, do you know how different this is from the way it was done when it was being governed by TSBA? I mean, I just wonder how big of a change. They were the sole provider, so I'm not sure if there was an application process, because that's a moot point, but getting their feedback might be helpful, even if it's, I mean, I don't know if it needs to be before we vote, but I would think this is something that could be revised over time. Looking through it, it seems pretty straightforward. But I do think.
Yeah, there was not an application in place previously, and the application is crafted based on the exact language in our rule. So there really isn't anything in addition that's added to it. It just breaks out exactly what the rule states as the criteria.
Yeah, I think it probably would behoove us to, like say, we maybe could give a conditional approval, or we could vote and approve it, and then come back with modifications later. But to get input to see if there's something in our application process that people would have any issues or questions about, I think that would certainly be worthwhile doing. Other comments or thoughts about that? Charlie, you obviously asked the question.
No, I think it would be beneficial. I mean, and for me, it was more sort of curiosity than anything, or even sort of informally. I'm satisfied and sort of trust the staff, but if that is something that we can fold into it, I think it would just make a better product if, the time sort of allows to do that. But to me, it's not a must-have in order to move forward.
Okay. David, do you have any comments or concerns about that?
No, I think someone mentioned that, if we did approve this today, it could always be amended as we got feedback going forward, since we have until, I guess, February till those applications are due. So I think because I think I caught there was kind of a time constraint of getting this completed and get it out.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the right thing to do, is if we can have a motion to approve it, we post it. We also, on the posting, provide an opportunity if people have questions about the application process or about the rubric or things that they wanted to see differently, that this subcommittee could get back together and look at it and then make any necessary recommendations to the state board.
Bob, just wanted you to see, it looks like Alina was able to rejoin us, so I don't know if she has any thoughts, if her microphone's working, but good to see you. Jump in if you've got any feedback here.
Elena, are you there?
I can see that you're talking, but we can't hear you. Nope. You're welcome to add any comments in the chat.
In the chat, I was going to say you could use the chat if that looks like it's up for you.
Yeah.
Bob, we can certainly add a note about that and include my email address if anyone has any questions or additional feedback on the process to the rubric or application along with that on our website.
Personally, I think it's fairly straightforward, and I think you've done a good job of putting it together. But I do also, I'm a firm believer in providing people opportunities to comment. So I think that was a good suggestion that we can put that on there and offer that opportunity. Well, is she typing us a note on the chat?
Looks like she might be.
Well, I actually something. Okay, she agrees with the information being shared. Thank you, thank you, Alina. So if I can have a motion to approve the rubric and the application and the rubric with the notification that we will, when it goes on site, provide opportunities for anyone to provide input specifically to the application or the rubric. If I can have that, somebody make a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Are we approving the red line version?
Yes. Correct, Ally?
Yes.
Which was the one she sent out. She sent out this morning a clean copy of the red line version, right, Ally?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, if not, all in favor say aye.
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 Any objections? And we'll wait for Alina to send in her vote via chat. So we'll have. She agrees. She votes yes. So we have five ayes then. Very good. So motion we have to have a roll call vote. Is that right, Ally? Since this is a virtual meeting, do we need to have a roll call vote?
Yes, we can do that.
All right. So you want to call the roll? We'll go through this again.
So Alina Bell, you have agree.
She said yes.
Charlie Buffalino,
Aye.
Bob Eby,
Aye.
Sarah Morrison,
Aye.
David Stevens.
Aye.
Yeah, 5 ayes.
Okay. So that motion for both the adoption of the rubric and the application are approved. So again, the next steps is we'll have this on our website by the 15th of October with the note that if somebody has questions or comments, we will accept those. If it's something of suggested change, we will bring this advisory committee back together. But the intent is to have it on there so that we'll meet that potential applications can be provided by mid-February as on the charts, and then we'll meet back in March and April. We'll review those, interface with any questions or comments that we have with the potential applicants, get those back and forth to the final recommendation that we will send to the state board on the 1st of May. And then the state board will act on that for the upcoming year in the May meeting. Any other comments or questions? Ally, did I cover everything that we needed to cover?
Yes, you did perfect.
Just one comment that's not completely related, but just occurs to me as we're thinking about how this process will be conducted and evaluated moving forward. And this may be part of the rubric, but we should just make sure that we're getting sort of some way of standardized feedback from participants, since this is a new way of providing courses for local school board members. Just make sure we bake that into the format for each approved provider to provide us, I think, as a committee with feedback in terms of satisfaction, essentially, to know which courses are really seeming to be of value.
So you're talking about feedback from the participants, from the board members when they take the course. Yeah, that's an excellent point. I know that when I took the courses through TSBA at the end of each session but there's a requirement that you have a certain number of hours that the course has to be. You have to be in that class for, 6 hours or 7 hours or however many hours is a requirement. And you had to meet that. But the last thing we would do, which would happen just before that 7-hour period, is that we fill out an evaluation form with regard to how the course could be improved and, pluses, minuses, whatever. I think we ought to continue to expect that from the course providers, that they have a review session. And that definitely is a good point there, sir.
Yeah, and I was looking at the rubric, and it asks the provider to explain how they're going to evaluate learning objectives and mastery and how completion of the course. But I think we should think about some way of sort of having like an exit ticket or survey form that's standard, so that we can look across providers in a way that's more uniform, potentially.
Yep. Good point. Another thing is, let me ask this question. Can providers provide, I know they have to describe their course. And if they want to present more than one course, then they have to provide, describe each one of the courses they provide. I know for TSBA, we had one on school finance. We had one on board member superintendent relations. I know that was a very important one because there's a lot of board members when they first come on board, they think they can go to anybody in the staff. They think they can go to the principals, they can go to the teachers, and they can't. They really can't do that. They have one employee, and that's the superintendent. So there was a course on that. And TSBA had maybe 10 or 12 different courses that you could take. When an applicant applies, they're applying for a specific course. If I took course A from provider A, and I took course B, I could still take course B from provider B as long as I met the number of hours of requirement for the year. Is that correct? You don't have to take them all from the same provider.
That's correct.
I just think we need to be clear about that, because I, as the board member, are going to be getting this list of potential providers. And, the boards I think it needs to be clear from the board's perspective that, hey, you have a requirement for your board members to take 7 hours a year, or whatever the requirement is. You can get them from these are approved providers, and then how they meet that requirement is up to the local boards, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right. Let's see. Elena just sent something. Let's see what she says. Additional comments, Ms. Morrison's question on outcomes. I will also mention that school board members' best practice is to also share what they have learned in their school board meetings for constituent accountability. Oops. And for the meeting notes. That's good. Very good point. Yeah. So board members need to bring that up in their their monthly board meetings, and that will help them help the process. Any other comments or questions? If none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion moved and seconded. Without objection, we will be adjourned. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you, if not before March or April, we'll do it in March or April. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.